After sidetracked with a handful of other videos, finally getting back to it with my vinyl collection series. This is part 25, and we are still only within the K's of my vinyl collection. Other than that, what's going to be playing in the background is going to be quite the shake-up, but honestly, I would consider one of the best albums of 2021 that I've heard thus far. And it's the debut album by this musical group called African Imperial Wizard. And this is a, God, what isn't this? Like, it's a mixture of like African tribal music mixed with dark wave and industrial and dark ambience and noise. Like, there's a lot going on here, but it's so interesting nonetheless. And I want to do an album review for it, but it's just like, I don't feel like I'm in the right field or mindset to do, most album reviews of stuff of like completely different to that of extreme metal. But it's put out through Tesco, and Tesco is one of the wildest labels out there if you're looking for electronic music or industrial music. Such an awesome label, and as I stated, this is one of the standout releases I've heard thus far within music for 2021, so definitely check out African Imperial Wizard. Alright, with all that being said, let's finally get back to showing some records. So in the previous part, I started talking about my KFR collection, and in this part, we're going to finish up the other half of it. So we started off with the two-way split between KFR and Animite. I bought this specifically for the KFR side at the time because that's when I was starting to obsess with Max DeCardi's work, and I didn't know who Animite was. And honestly, this whole split is just a kind of like split kind of paying homage in a way to the Les Legion's noir stuff of their dark ambient material. It's just straight up dark ambience and noise. There's really nothing black metal about it besides the shrieky vocals that either Max or Animite utilizes on each side. Although I really got to give it up to the Animite side here. It just is a bit more engaging, but yet still terrifying and mystic sounding for the dark ambient style. But yeah, I had to get this because I know it's long gone sold out. But for me personally, some of the best dark ambient music you can come across is stuff by Animite. As for the layout and packaging, however, as you can tell, it's a Go to War's release with the Obi strip. So you have artwork, again, like always done by Max DeCardi. Backside with even more artwork, as you can guess, once again, all done by Max DeCardi. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure every KFR release, or literally everything Max DeCardi has done solo-wise, all the artwork is always done by him. So I'm going to stop wasting my breath telling you that. It comes on a standard black vinyl along with an insert sheet of both members. You've got the Animite side and the KFR side. Then I have the third full-length album by KFR, that being Zero. This was supposed to be the swan song for the project of KFR, but Max decided to carry on with it a few years later. I have a few other releases by this project, which I'll be talking about in a brief moment. But Zero, in my view, in terms of songwriting and creativity, is where Max truly peaks with KFR. And while my favorite will always be the debut album, because it really just goes for the throat of like the unsettling, terrifying nature of dark ambience and noise and black metal, I would say Zero is truly the more creative aspect of it, where he throws, different types of writing styles here. It's a bit more melodic in some aspects. The keyboards almost give off like this really creepy yet unsettling, like avant-garde take with classical music. It's just Max really went balls to the wall all out with creativity with this album, and that's where, again, as I stated, it truly peaks with his songwriting. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging, however, this was put out through Sunship Records, which, if memory serves me right, I think this label is ran by either the cousin or the brother or of Max DeCardi. I know it's a family member, but I forget exactly which family member. But yeah, sadly they're long gone sold out, as Max usually likes to do one and only time presses with his albums. So if you ever have the chance to get them while you can, because they'll usually sell out. Anyway, as for the layout and packaging with it, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold with some very disturbing photography right here. As well too has an insert sheet with all more disturbing artwork that Max DeCardi is known for, kind of like concepts for each song title. And as well too, another insert sheet with just more album artwork. Other than that, it's on plain black vinyl, limited to I believe 200 copies. The last record I had by KFR is one of the later ones, that being Ostendant de Venom Diaboli. Hopefully I'm saying that partially right. This was a surprise to me that Max would continue on with this project, considering the fact, as I stated earlier, Zero was supposed to be the swan songs, the last hurrah for KFR, but he continued on here. And this record, I would say, is more in line with the traditional sense of raw black metal. There's more guitars being utilized here. There isn't so many detours with the dark ambient aspect. And it just feels more of the aggressor that reminds me of stuff like Drown in the Light in some kind of way. And as well, too, Max Ducardi's vocals are always just so vile and just unnatural sounding. It's just truly miserable and harsh and just hard to ignore, just the pitch he throws at the listener, that it just sounds evil, just truly evil and terrifying. And that's the thing that's always sold me about the KFR, just writing styles, just the execution aspect with Max Ducardi's vocal approach. But yeah, this record right here was put out through Purity Through Fire, which I'm happy to see that he's gaining more attention and being signed to a bigger label. Pretty sure there are still records available there if you're in the European countries, but for us Americans, I'm pretty sure Arcane Altar carries copies of some KFR work, so you can get them there. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with track listings. Comes on a standard black vinyl along with an insert sheet with lyrics and artwork for each track. Yes, now I get to talk about this band again on my channel. Again, as I stated the last time I talked about them, do not let the ridiculous band name deceive you, because the music they write is stellar. We started off with the debut album by Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, that being If the Sky Falls, We Shall Catch Larks. Yep, Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, which is such a ridiculous name, because I'm pretty sure it has something to do with some kind of like witchcraft spell that requires you to kiss the anus of a black cat. Like, I don't know, it's just ridiculous. And yes, I will admit, the band name is what caught my eye to them to check them out. But I was just in awe just how good this was. I really became a fan of them. That, oh my god, it's already been a year. Around this time, yeah, last year, I was really obsessing over them. And Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat is a neo-folk band that also blends rock music together, because one thing that kind of makes them a bit of a standout from other neo-folk acts is that there's a lot of usage of drums and percussions, where as I've noticed, neo-folk really doesn't use percussions all that much. It's more centered around string instruments, and it has more of like a rock edge at some parts, which makes it kind of like catchy and more upbeat and fun, which is really what sold me about Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, because for the longest time I was always interested checking out neo-folk, but it never sold me. I think it was over the fact that I wasn't used to hearing music that didn't have percussions. And I know it kind of aggravates some people, which is ridiculous, that Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat was my introduction to really, diving down, the well of neo-folk, because usually people would say, oh, it was Current 93, it was Death in June. How can you say it's Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat? It's just a carbon copy of like stuff like Death in June. Who the fuck cares, alright? As long as I, with any of this, shouldn't we be happy with the fact that people are diving into a new form of music regardless of what was their first? Because I know I'm, sidetracking just a bit here, but music snobs. I know a lot of people just think that it's just specifically in metal that there's snobs. No. Regardless of the genre, hell, regardless of the community that you're in, you'll always have snobs be attached to it. That's not a scapegoat. That's just a straight up fucking fact that people just don't want to accept. That's just how it is everywhere, and you gotta get used to it. But anyway, back on track here. Yeah, Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat. Neo-folk rock from, I believe, Belgium. And their first half of the discography is really where they root themselves within neo-folk. And this album right here, I would say, is a great place to start out with, because while the neo-folk usage is more utilized here than other albums by theirs, it's still really engaging and fun, especially the track Nihilism as in Nihilism. That song is so catchy, and it's really long too, as I believe it's like 7 minutes long, but it still has like, you know, hooks to it, which makes it fun. And the outro track on here is kind of like this folk ballad that also blends like ambience and keyboards together. That is absolutely gorgeous. It's a really good album by them. The only thing negative I can say about that it really doesn't have anything to do with the music is the layout and packaging is just a dumpster fire. I hate this. It's, again, a paper sheet that just folds at the bottom, and that's what the vinyl sits into. This is fucking dumb. But yeah, other than that, I guess one argument you can say is at least you have the music, but again, the packaging, pure, utter garbage. Other than that, you just got the lyrics in the back, plain black vinyl, and if you want to get this, pretty sure it's still available on their Bandcamp. Continuing on with this band's discography, I also have their sophomore full-length, that being an interlude to the outermost, my personal favorite thing that Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat has released, because again, there are just so many hooks, and is so catchy, and the singing on this has dramatically improved a lot. It's a bit more upbeat. Again, it's a mixture of neo-folk and rock music, but they kind of like experiment in bits and pieces in this album to keep it fresh and engaging still, and they just really hit it out of the park with their sophomore album. The only thing negative I can say about it is, once again, the layout and packaging is similar to that of the previous record I just showed you, so really fucking annoying. But other than that, for the songs on here to really check out, it's the Fire Sky is easily the best song they ever wrote, because the climactic part within it, where he starts shouting yet singing at the same time, that kind of gives off like a hardcore-ish aspect to it, just with all the energy he releases within his vocals. It is just so glorious. It's easily the best song they ever wrote. Other great tracks on here are You Will Reap a Whirlwind, The Cranes Are Sacred of Sun Wars is another very catchy song, Salt, All Movements Are Targets in the Minds of Tigers. Just, this is the place to start in my personal view if you want to get into this band. And I know the artwork is very simple and very basic, but I love it either way just because of it being a cat. But yeah, definitely check this out. And again, as I stated with the previous record, pretty sure you can get this vinyl copy as well on their Bandcamp. Next up is the third full-length by Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, that being The Nebulous Dreams. This was actually the first record I ever got by them within my collection. That I think the selling point for me was it was only like $5. It was a distro or a record shop somewhere in North Carolina selling it for really dirt cheap, as I stated, and yeah, for under $10 to get a record by these guys, I figured why not. The third full length is like, they really give up the rock aspect about them, and they try to go down like this ambient folk style of writing that really drags out. Like, I've only spun this like maybe once or twice, and there's really nothing memorable about it other than it just becomes like background music of just ambient like guitar playing. It's not really that memorable to me. It's not really the place to start out, and I get the fact that they want to experiment with this band, but yeah, it's just one of those records within their discography that lingers and doesn't do much. Other than that, for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with really nothing, so I'm not really sure why I'm even showing you this. Comes on a standard black vinyl along with an insert sheet with just credits on one side and lyrics on the other. Proceeding on with even more material I have by this band, up next is the collaboration between the Blackheart Rebellion and Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat. It's only 2 tracks right here, and both bands kind of work together within it. That really the folk aspects about Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat really evaporate here, and it's more like a post-rock album with elements of folk kind of coming here and there, but for the most part it's like a post-rock release, mainly because I feel like the Blackheart Rebellion really has a lot of influence with this album overall. The only other thing to point out here is that this was actually signed for me by Stefan, the mastermind for Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, which was pretty neat. But really nothing else to talk about. As I stated, it's only 2 tracks. There's only 12 minutes worth of material on it. So yeah, it's like a post-rock, folk-ish type of release, and that's really all that needs to be said. As for the layout and packaging, however, which is pretty cool, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings and lyrics. And what's neat is that the artwork is of this cat right here, obviously, but the printed inner sheet is right here with For the Record. Not really much. Again, it's a plain black vinyl, but you have some really cool photography for each side. And in the inside is just a picture of all the members of both the Black Heart Rebellion and Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat all together. The final record I have by Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, which yes, I'm having so much fun saying that name over and over again in this video, is the hardest record I would say to get by them, and it's the fan favorite, which is why. And it's going to be the 4th full length, that being Hewers of Wood and Drawers of Water. God, it took me forever to get this. It was such a pain in the ass, but finally I have it within my collection. And it's the fan favorite because I would say this is where it just goes full-blown neo-folk. The rock aspect that was utilized on the first 2 albums is really not present all that much here, and it just focuses way more on, you know, stringed instruments. And man, this album is campy but just so catchy. It's the type of album that you would listen to just like, you know, outdoors around like a fire, camping. There's just something about it that whole aesthetic just perfectly fits this album and is just so soothing yet full of hooks at the same time, and I love it. But yeah, again, it's just such a pain in the ass to get, and it sucks too as well. To me, if you look in the discography of, you know, because again I'm having so much fun saying it, Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, it's a bittersweet album considering the fact that immediately right after this, Stefan dramatically changes the sound, and each record after this is like this weird synthy experimental version of folk music that I joke around with people talking about it. Like the latest album is like a disco folk album. It's really weird and just very unorthodox that, I don't know, I'm not really crazy for it. It's just not something I can find myself listening to within folk music. And I know he's done a new project, which, I forget the name of it and it's killing me, but Stefan has like gone like full-blown synth pop with some of his other musical projects. I guess he's just found more appeal with that style of writing, but yeah, it's such a bittersweet album in my personal view within the discography timeline of this band. But anyway, if you want to get into Kiss the Anus of a Black Cat, this is the album to start out with. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside, once again on a standard black vinyl, but printed in an inner sheet with lyrics on one side and a photo of Stefan on the other. Oh boy! Now I get to talk about this band within my vinyl collection series. And I brought them up a handful of times throughout the series, as I've always stated that this is the most extreme stuff on planet Earth if you're listening to extreme metal. I consider this the most chaotic, harshest, brutal, whatever word you would associate with metal as like the most of extreme. This is the apex of it. This is the climax of it. And I have everything by them, and I'll always appraise them for always just pushing the boundaries of how extreme you can do stuff within metal. And that would be Knelt Rote with their debut album, From Without. Boy, this, just every release, not just this, but everything by Knelt Rote, just prepare yourself. If you decide to go down the rabbit hole within their discography, be warned, lower the volume, because this will annihilate your eardrums. It is just so unforgivingly extreme, because it's a mixture of black metal, death metal, grindcore, power electronics, noise, just anything that you would say, wow, that's really chaotic and harsh. They will combine it with their sound to make it just obliterate you. Like, it is just, as I stated, so unforgivingly extreme, alright? And I love it. And one thing that's going to piss off a lot of people me saying this, but I look at it as like it's the cold, hard truth. Knelt Rote makes all the war metal bands out there that people idolize as like the most extreme shit sound like easy listenings. Because this makes stuff like Blasphemy, Revenge, Conqueror just seem so normal. And I know that's like insane to say, but I've seen Revenge live. I've seen Black Witchery live. I've seen a lot of war metal bands live. And they're extreme, they're loud, they're obnoxious, yada yada yada, and it's fun. But Knelt Rote is like a whole different beast that I was truly terrified when I saw them live. I've always stated this story, but I feel like I need to state it one more time. They were the act before Portal. Like when I went to the Maryland Death Fest and Portal was there, which in 2015, which I still consider one of the best lineups ever, I was so stoked to see Portal. I was like, I can't believe I'm going to see Portal. I'm going to get weirded out. And Portal was an experience all of itself. But before Portal was Knelt Rote. And this is when I knew absolutely nothing about them. I was like, who the fuck is this? I guess we better sit through this. I don't know what I'm going to expect, but I'll just sit through it because I want to have good seats for Portal. They came on Knelt Rote, and I was truly terrified. Like, I thought I was going to faint. Like, they were so fucking loud that everyone in the audience was basically covering their ears. Like, it was just so fucking intense. Like, I know I say this story all the time, but it's like, I will never forget it. It's been 6 years, and it's still, like, drilled in my head, like, the sounds, just the noise that they were creating. It is the most extreme shit on planet Earth. I will say it over and over again. Knelt Rote is a whole other beast that so many people have yet to experience. If you come out saying that, yeah, the most extreme stuff is this, this, and that, and you didn't say Knelt Rote, it's because you don't know of them yet. I'm not overselling this, people. It is truly the most extreme of extreme things on planet Earth. And if you're an adrenaline junkie looking for the most extreme shit, get familiar with that fucking name. But anyway, this right here is their debut album that it still carries the formula of the other albums that I'll be talking about in a little bit. And they really never changed up anything other than just kind of playing around with the styles, throwing genres in and out. And this album has a little bit of more of the traditional sense of grindcore and power violence in some aspects, but all the other extreme metal is still attached with it. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, and this LP variant comes on white. Pretty sure if you want to get this, the only place that sells copies of it, and it's kind of hard to get them, is on Discog. Then I have their sophomore album, Insignificance. This again, still extreme, hectic, and just brutal in every sense within extreme music. Again, of the mixture of black metal, grindcore, death metal, noisecore, whatever the fuck. Which it was funny, when I bought this through one of the vendors, I just love how they try to tell you what the music genre is. And it just seems like they took like just a word bank of all extreme music and kind of combined it together, saying that it's experimental, noisy black grind. I mean, if that description doesn't sell you on it, I don't know what will. But Insignificance, I would say, of the 4 full lengths, is kind of like the oddball because they play it more in the sense of noise grind. But it's still absolutely terrifying, dark, morbid, twisted, and just insane, like anything else by Knelt Rote. And again, just in my view, as I stated earlier, it is the most extreme of extremes within extreme metal, Knelt Rote. As for the layout and packaging, however, I think it's pretty cool how they got like the spot gloss kind of going with the artwork right here. Backside is the same deal with the spot gloss, just with the track listings. It does, however, come on a standard black vinyl, but also has a printed inner sheet with artwork on one side and lyrics on the other, which are absolutely impossible to keep up with, but I'll give it to them for actually telling us what the lyrics are. As well, too, I have their 3rd full length, Trespass. Oh boy, this is their magnum opus, which means I consider this the most extreme album on planet Earth, because I've listened to this album dozens and dozens of times, and really it's given me a whole new standard for what I consider extreme anymore. Like, it's really rare that I'm blown away just by bands solely focusing on just the extreme aspect within metal, because none of it comes even remotely close to what Knelt Rote will throw at you, and Trespass is truly the climax of it. And this album was released around the time when I saw them, so they played a lot of material off of this, and it's just so unforgivingly harsh and extreme. I know that's like something I've been saying over and over again with them, but I can't fucking emphasize it enough, alright? It amazes me how this stuff is just readily available on like Nuclear War Now. Like, how this isn't sold out because of all the adrenaline junkies out there. I truly don't understand it. Knelt Rote needs to be talked about way fucking more, in my personal view. And yeah, Trespass is the album to check out by them if you're really just that eager to hear the most extreme stuff on planet Earth. But yeah, you can get this through Nuclear War Now, so get it there at any means necessary. As for the layout and packaging with this, however, you have album artwork, which I'm going to be honest, this perfectly depicts what it feels like to listen to. It's just nothingness of just abrasive fucking noise that just makes you feel really insignificant in this world. This album artwork just perfectly depicts what this album just sounds like. Backside is the same deal, but with the Nuclear War Now logo. Comes on a gatefold right here with more artwork, and it's just on a standard black vinyl. And the final record I have by Knelt Rote is their last record, that being Alterity, their fourth full length, that I was just so happy to see that they actually released stuff, as they disbanded in 2015. And I forget if this was released either in 2017 or 18, but it was like an unreleased album that they worked on but never released. And just happy to see that there's new Knelt Rote. Hopefully one day they reform again, because fuck, I would love to catch them live again, and hopefully more people can experience just the sheer intensity these guys are in a live act. But Alterity, I would say, is not as blackened as their other releases. It has more of a sense of it's just like a very abrasive death grind release, and it's still absolutely fun to listen to. And as extreme as it is, it doesn't overstay its welcome, as I believe it's like only 23 or 25 minutes long, which I think is an appropriate album length for something like this, because as much as I enjoy Knelt Rote and bands that play kind of in the same style like them, when you're going just balls out, abrasive, extreme, non-stop, it's going to get really sickening past like the 15-minute mark, which this is going to piss people off, which is kind of why I don't care for Revenge, I don't really care for Blitz, and I don't care for bands like that, because the whole just, wow, holy fuck, this is intense factor is going to wear off quick. And Knelt Rote, I feel like it, in some sense, is aware of that, which is why this album's only like 25 or 23 minutes long. So it's a good length for it. It doesn't overstay its welcome. But yeah, other than that, you can get this at Nuclear War Now, which again, I don't know how this stuff is still readily available and people aren't buying the shit out till it's sold out. That still blows me away. But either way, maybe I just sound like a fanboy saying all that. But yes, Alterity, you can get it at Nuclear War Now. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside. Comes on a standard black vinyl, along with your little booklet with all the lyrics and more artwork imagery to go along with everything. So next up is a black metal band from Norway that doesn't really get a lot of attention, mainly because it's newer, as it formed in the 2010s, I believe, and it's obviously overshadowed by the big names within Norwegian black metal, but definitely deserves a bit of attention. And that would be Knokkelklang with their release Kalk and Osk, which I think that's what it says down there. But Knokkelklang is a black metal band that kind of blends, at least with this demo material right here, elements of like industrial and noise, but it's also very just miserable and harsh sounding. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily DSBM. It's just a very noisy, just miserable release, and there's something about it that gives off genuine emotion that's just emotively driven, which really sold me about this release right here by Knokkelklang. that, again, if you're one of the black metal fans that just really enjoys that style, you'll definitely dig Knokkelklang for the most part. This was put out through Territar Possession, and I don't think it's available anymore, but it's one of the first releases by them. And I would talk more highly about Territar Possession because they actually do have some really interesting bands signed to the label, but their prices and shipping is just absolutely fucking insane, which I really can't blame them, at least on the shipping aspect, but their prices overall are pretty expensive. But again, pretty solid label nonetheless, and for me personally, Knokkelklang is one of the standouts within that distro and label. But anyway, as for the layout and packaging, not really crazy for it because you do have the album artwork right here on one side, back side with just the track listings, but anyways, moving on next, I also have the debut album by Knokkelklang, which I would say is a massive step up from the demos because they really just dramatically improved everything about them. There isn't so much of like the noisy type of industrial sound they had with the demos. There's way more just attention to detail in the black metal aspect about this with the tremolo picked riffs. That sounds more like a very emotive, atmospheric black metal album that just is overall very well written. Nothing groundbreaking, but just really solid for the style of black metal. That if you're a fan of it, definitely check this out because these guys definitely need a bit more attention because they are very unappreciated in my personal view. That any and all black metal fans that like atmospheric black metal can find something to enjoy with it. And also, as I stated, it's emotive, but it's not like, you know, emotive in that miserable sense of like DSBM. It feels like genuine, but the riffs are just hard hitting and again atmospheric, so it's not like emotionally in the vein of like depressive suicidal black metal. It just comes off way more mature than most of those bands, but yeah, overall just really solid stuff. As for the layout and packaging, however, thankfully it's not in that over glorified cardboard shit. It's actually in an LP jacket, thankfully, so that's quite the step up. Put it through Territar Possession, but I'm not sure it's still available there, so I guess your best bet is to check out Discogs, because usually Territar Possession's records typically sell out, and this was put out a few years ago, so hate to tell you that. But anyway, as for the artwork and packaging, you have album artwork right here, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold. This also includes a poster, and this LP variant is the limited edition on white with black splatter. And the last record for this vinyl collection part is going to be Commodus, An Imperial Sun Rises, one of the handful of demos released by this black metal project from Australia. It's a one-man two that plays raw black metal, but the overall songwriting and how the riffs are like played out is really similar to that of like hardcore stuff as Integrity. It kind of blends that with raw black metal. I think that's why a lot of people find a lot of fascination with the riffs within this, because it just sounds more aggressive and ass-kicking for raw black metal standards anyway. And Kommodus definitely does a stellar job with this style. Very simplistic, but very fun as well. As well, too, with this project, I've noticed he really loves the aesthetic with Japan. As you can see right here, it has Yuko Mishima with the artwork right here. As well, too, what kind of sucks, as much as I want to get into this band, getting records by them is just fucking impossible because usually it's put out through either Go to Warwick's or other labels as well, too. It's very limited quantity. They sell out and they go online for like fucking $150 bare minimum, and it's like, fuck this, I'm so done doing that. It's bad enough I did it with Obscuritatum, but I don't need to do it with another raw black metal band, so that's why I've kind of given up. But yeah, other than that, if you want to just get really ass-kicking, aggressive, raw black metal that's very addicting, that has like a hardcore type of vibe going on, again, similar to that of Integrity, definitely check out Commodus. As for the layout and packaging, however, this I believe is a second press put out through Bestial Rape Records, which is ran by Craig Legase, who used to do YouTube videos, and he does a phenomenal job with all of the layout and packaging and just setup with his records. So there's just genuine passion being brought within every Bestial Rape Records release, and it's showcased here as well. So with the album artwork and packaging, right here you got the artwork for it, as well too you have the backside with the track listings, the Bestial Rape Records logo right there at the bottom, insert sheet with more artwork and lyrics on the other side, and this vinyl pressing comes on like some looking reddish brown marble color. Alright guys, that'll do it for this vinyl collection part. Like always, links provided to everything I talked about will be in the description below, along with what was playing in the background music. So like always guys, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and have a great day.